Good morning, Skallywags. Shpoo here with another Mindless Drivel, and while Yuri Talachko and his weird sexcapades are back in the news once again, I have decided that I am not going to turn Mindless Drivel into the What's Up with the Weird Sex Doll Guy show. So today we are going to be talking about literally anything else. For those of you who have not seen the last couple of Mindless Drivels, which is my Monday show, Yuri Talachko is a bodybuilder slash actor from Kazakhstan who recently married a sex doll. And that is all the mention that he's getting today. Instead, I figured, new year, new Darwin Awards. Unfortunately, however, I went to the Darwin Awards website and they have not posted the 2021 winners just yet. But then I realized that I've never talked about the 2020 winners on a video before, so let's talk about that. Now, I must say, there are some people out there who would be offended by the notion of the Darwin Awards. So, on the off chance that you are someone who isn't familiar with what the Darwin Awards are, it's a website that ranks the dumbest deaths of the year. And while most of the time I am somebody who believes that death is tragic, heartbreaking, nothing to be laughed at. But once you see some of the people that are on the list and you see what they did to get on the list, believe me, you will understand. Basically, it's less of an unfortunate soul that has been lost to some tragic event, and more like a cleansing of the gene pool, if you will. Look, I could sit here and justify it all day long, but how about we just jump in and you'll see what I'm talking about. Sound good? So, the 2020 Darwin Awards. There are 3 entries for 2020, and I think the best way to do this would be in ascending order of dumb. Today, we will start with the first one, and if you guys enjoy it and you're not, too offended that we went there, then we'll cover the other ones next week. Sound good? Good! Up first, we have the story of Michael Sexson. And this story has to do with the treasure of Forrest Fenn. Now, in case you don't know who that is, Forrest Fenn is an eccentric art dealer who buried a treasure that is compiled of gold coins and other artifacts that add up to about $2 million. He buried it somewhere in the Rocky Mountains, and then released a book called The Thrill of the Chase that gave little clues and riddles to kind of guide people to find this buried treasure. Over the years, somewhere in the ballpark of about 350,000 people have gone searching for the treasure of Forrest Fenn. And at least 4 people have died prior to Michael Sexson going on his search for it. As a matter of fact, I myself had even been kicking around the idea of possibly planning a trip to go and look for it myself. That is, until after 32 years, someone finally found it back in the summer of 2020. But enough on that. What does it have to do with Michael Sexson? Well, unlike the other 350,000 people who had tried and failed to find the treasure, Michael absolutely knew, beyond a shadow of a doubt, exactly where it was. He had read the book, he had decoded all the clues, and he was ready to claim his prize. So he talked to his 65-year-old friend, who to this day has remained unnamed, talked him into joining his quest, and the two of them were off to retrieve their riches. In February of 2020, the two set out for Dinosaur National Monument on the Colorado-Utah border. Michael was so certain that he knew exactly where the treasure was that neither man even bothered to pack an overnight bag. Michael honestly believed that if the two of them left out early enough in the day, that they could find the treasure and be home by dinner time. Well, needless to say, they were very, very wrong. They ended up getting completely lost and spent far more time in the woods and mountains than they thought they ever would. By the time that rescuers found them, they were disoriented, starving, freezing, and on the verge of death. But salvation came just in the nick of time, and the 2 men were escorted down the mountain. The end. Except this is a Darwin Award, so of course that's not the end. Learning absolutely nothing from the experience, Michael Sexson decided that he was going to take another crack at it. Just 1 month later. But he had learned from his mistakes. He still knew where the treasure was. So there's no way that they would get lost this time. No doubts whatsoever. But of course, he can't go it alone. That would be stupid. You see what I did there? Stupid? Yeah. So once again, he picked up the phone and he called his 65-year-old buddy. Fortunately, his 65-year-old buddy still had a few brain cells floating around upstairs, and he immediately hung up the phone on Sexson. Except that once again, no, that did not happen because stupid attracts stupid. And so, on March 17th, the two men set out once again, headed back out to the mountains to collect their riches. They did learn at least one lesson from last time. No, for real. They actually did learn one lesson. Just one. But at least they learned one. After having almost starved last time, they decided that they were not going empty-handed this time. Yeah, they brought a single candy bar apiece, 2 water bottles apiece, a copy of Fenn's book, and the clothes on their backs. See? Lesson learned. Being that this was in March of 2020, Dinosaur National Monument was actually closed due to quarantine. Any hikers going into the area were cautioned to avoid any rugged terrain and just stick to the main public access trails. This way, any first responders could remain safe during the quarantine. Makes perfect sense. And that warning, as I mentioned, the public access trails, the warning was for experienced hikers. You know, the people that are normally going into the more rugged terrain. Not for 2 random senior citizens from Denver. But they did change one thing from the first trip. On Wednesday morning, March the 18th, they stopped at a small place just outside of the park and rented 2 snowmobiles. As Michael and his friend loaded the snowmobiles onto the truck and headed off toward the park, the guy that rented Michael the snowmobiles noticed that they were headed off toward the northwest. And at this point, he became just completely befuddled. I mean, obviously these 2 men were not experienced hikers. They obviously had absolutely no idea what they were doing. They're not even dressed in winter clothing, for that matter. They're dressed in like March in Denver type clothing, and here they are headed off towards the northwest, which is the most remote area of the park. The guy even went as far as to say that he was kind of taking bets with himself over how long it would take for them to come back after having given up. He figured at most an hour or 2, maybe 3, except, well, when they didn't return by nightfall, he pretty much assumed that exactly what one would expect to happen had now happened, so he called the authorities. And to help put into perspective exactly how much of an absolute shit show this was, the guy's wife actually had to call them again the following morning to report the men missing. I guess the police had just assumed, no one's gonna head out to the northwest corner of the park. That would be insane. But finally, the search began. So here it is, Friday morning. The authorities head out toward the park and they find Michael's truck almost right away. They search the area, and about 24 hours later, they find the snowmobiles abandoned in a field. The authorities were completely dumbfounded that the 2 men had apparently abandoned the snowmobiles and had continued off into the woods, into the mountains, on foot. But just a few hours later, the 2 men were found about 5 miles away from the truck and about a mile away from the snowmobiles. In the exact same spot they were rescued from a month ago! I mean, what? Michael's friend had survived, but just barely. Michael Sexson, however, not so much. So What happened? Well, first of all, Lieutenant Chip McIntyre, which is a phenomenal name, by the way, of the Moffat County Sheriff's Department, said that the men were, quote, not dressed for the conditions even for a day trip, and definitely not dressed for if something were to happen and they couldn't get out. As I mentioned, they were dressed for March in Denver. Then, in an interview with Gary Nichols, who was also with the Sheriff's Department, the 65-year-old friend said that once the 2 bottles of water apiece ran out, that they had tried to melt snow in the bottles, but that didn't work. I mean, who would have thought? Then they tried eating snow, which is the exact opposite of what you're supposed to do, because it lowers your body temperature and makes you colder. Go figure! It's snow! So he, that being the friend, turned to drinking his own urine. He said that over the course of the 3 or 4 days they were out there, he probably drank about a gallon of his own piss. Michael, on the other hand, decided that that was just too gross, so he wouldn't even consider it. Add to that, they had no camping gear, no winter clothing, and while they did sleep like cuddled up together to produce body heat, a storm rolled through that left about 3 inches of snow on the ground, so their clothes were wet and just froze. So that didn't help either. Unfortunately, according to the friend, they also had 2 cigarette lighters, but this same storm that left their clothing wet also got the lighters wet, so they couldn't build a fire. But when the search and rescue guys got there, they tried both lighters, and both lighters worked just fine, so you do the math. And there you have it. The story of Michael Sexson, Darwin Award Winner of 2020, number 1 of 3. Like I said, if you guys enjoy this one, I'll do the second one and the third one over the next week or 2. And if not, then we'll just call this a one-off and we'll move on to something else. So be sure to let me know in the comments below. Sure to let me know in the comments below. In the meantime, be sure to check us out across all of our social media. We are, of course, on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And I've also been kicking around the idea of doing a TikTok, but I keep going back and forth on that. So if that's something you guys are interested in at all, let me know. Also, as long as you're here, do the YouTube stuff. Comment, like, share, subscribe. I mean, come on, it's literally one little click of a mouse. Takes less than a fraction of a second. What have you got to lose? Tell me, tell me. And one last thing, while you're out here on the internet, go ahead and pop on over to www.geekycool.com. It is your one-stop shop for all things nerd. Whether you want news, articles, opinion pieces, etc. on all your favorite movies, comics, TV, books, etc. Geeky Cool has you covered. They also do a live program every Tuesday evening covering topics from our favorite movies from the 1940s to what's new in Hollywood. I mean, it's a little bit of everything, a different topic every week. I'm even on there sometimes myself. And the show is completely interactive, so you can join the fun as well. So you should do that. You can find them on Facebook and also here on YouTube. So please go show some love. I don't know what this was. Again, that's www.geekycool.com. Tell them the Skallywags sent you. And, I don't know, enjoy. Totally trailed off like I had more to say and I didn't have more to say. And that's going to do it for this episode of Mindless Drivel, guys. Once again, please let me know if you want me to cover the other 2 from 2020. Definitely let me know in the comments below. And if so, we will do that next Monday and or then and then the following, depending on how long the stories get. Try to keep these condensed. Yeah. Until then, you guys have a great week, and be sure to tune in tomorrow for another exciting episode in a series of enigmatic events. We'll see you then. Thanks for watching.